Hello everyone, it's Allie from Geek and Faerie Tarot, and I'm here today to bring you your monthly tarot forecast for the month of October 2018. Now this month I am using my Halloween Oracle. This is a deck that I don't get to use very much, and October seems like the perfect month to bring it out. So I've already pulled the cards, so let's just get started. So card number one is the Skull of Light. So this is the energy that we're bringing in from September into the month. This is how we're kicking off the month of October. And we're starting to get a picture of how to create our future. We kind of have plans or a vision of the way we want things, and they're starting to kind of become more clear. We're starting to understand how we can get there. We are shining some light on our true self, our whole self, so the good, the bad, and the ugly. We're kind of getting that fuller picture, and we're putting the pieces together, and things are starting to illuminate and take shape. Now, card number two is the Veil. This card is the challenges that we have to face this month. And so right off the bat, what I see, because it says under the veil, it says the future. So we're talking about plans for the future. So what I see as a challenge for this card, and that her eyes are covered, is that there's still some uncertainty and therefore self-doubt in our abilities. You know, wouldn't it be nice if we could just have like this clear vision, exactly how the future will pan out, so that either we can go ahead with confidence or just sit back and wait for things to happen? Unfortunately, that is not how it is. So the best way to predict the future is to create it yourself. And so the veil is starting to thin, so you have to remember that your vision might be a little bit fuzzy, but it's going to become more clear. You are going to gain more confidence. You just have to, our biggest challenge is working through those self-doubts. Now, the ancient Celts believe that on October 31st, the veil was at its thinnest. The veil between the living and the dead was at its thinnest. So that was the best night of the year to communicate with the deceased, with ancestors, past loved ones, or any other invisible creatures like fairies or angels or gods. Now that is perfect segue into our next card. Card number three is invisibility and authenticity. So those invisible beings that are watching us, always looking over our shoulder where we can't fully see them. We have that maybe an inkling that they're always there watching us, but never really sure. And as visual creatures, anything that we cannot see for ourselves or touch or feel gives us this feeling of, it's a bit unsettling to us, right? So these invisible beings are here. They're watching us all the time. They know ourselves. Remember, we talked about the good, the bad, the ugly, which is what we're trying to identify within ourselves so that we can be more authentic, be less invisible and more authentic. So an action forward this month, as we try to become more authentic, as we try to get a clearer picture of our future and how we can create it and make it happen, is some advice here is to consult those invisible beings that are always watching us. So prayer or meditation or oracle cards, any way, any ritual or method that you use to communicate with those invisible beings who know us inside and out will help you gain clarity on your next steps forward, on how you can make that vision you had that you're bringing forward into October, how to make it real and how to make it happen, how you can go from being invisible to visible. And a clue is by communicating with those invisible beings that are around us all the time. So it's funny that the whole story here just comes full circle back to that skull of light, that we need to make the invisible parts of ourselves visible to achieve authenticity and wholeness. Even the parts that we might be ashamed of or scared of, or that we've shoved down because we don't want to acknowledge them or because they're painful or hurtful. We need to embrace them, and we need to use them constructively so that we can heal, or so that we can be our authentic self, which gives us that true potential that leads to a happier and more fulfilling life. Now, as usual, I have drawn a card from the Good Tarot to give us an affirmation as we move forward through October. And I was so certain when I was shuffling the cards, I was like, oh man, it's gonna be the Moon card, because the Moon card is all about the shadow and the shadow self, which is the whole theme of this reading so far, which is interesting as well because shadow work often comes up. Tarot readers and light workers on YouTube and Instagram and all over social media will be talking about shadow work this month. It's going to be a huge theme. And it came up in this reading as well. So I was so certain it was going to be the Moon card, but it wasn't. When I first pulled this card, I was like, interesting. Totally not what I was expected. But when I read the affirmation, it just made perfect sense. So the card I pulled is the Messenger of Water. And I think I've pulled this card before. I can't remember which month it was, but I'm pretty sure this card came up. I'll have to double check. So it's this month's affirmation is, I need to look for the best in others and honor it even when it seems a challenge to do so. Now, I found that first line really interesting because one of the best ways to get to know your shadow is to identify the things that trigger you, the things that other people say or do that invoke this visceral emotional reaction within you. And what happens is that when we're triggered, we misinterpret our own insecurities for someone else's moral deficiencies. So one example might be you're telling a story or giving somebody some information, and someone in the group says, oh, actually, here's more to that story, or here's more information, or here's a fact that corrects the thing that you just said. Now, there was no judgment in their statement. They were just simply adding facts to what you were already saying, the topic that you already brought up. But if that triggers an insecurity within you, you might say, oh, that person is mean, or they're a know-it-all, or they like to build themselves up by tearing me down, by making me look foolish or stupid, when that wasn't the case at all. But that's how you're internalizing it, so it triggers you. But the real insecurity within you is that people might think that I'm stupid or that I don't know what I'm talking about. So that is the insecurity that you have that was triggered, but you're projecting it onto that person, saying that their moral deficiency is that they're mean, or they're a know-it-all, or they like to show off, or they like to tear other people down. So that's just one example of how that works. You're triggered, you project your insecurities on someone else by perceiving them as having a moral deficiency instead of acknowledging that it's your insecurity that comes up. So if you can identify your triggers and you can process that and say, is that really them being immoral, or is it me being insecure? And then you can work through it. That's the best way to get to know your shadow self. My attractions stem from self-love and a knowledge that I am part of all of, which takes many forms, each exquisite in its own way. So I'm interpreting that with all the other cards this month is that you have to love all of yourself. The good, the bad, and the ugly. We gotta love it all. We have to love the things that we're good at, and we have to learn to love our flaws as well. I can have what I desire. There is no need for jealousy, anger, resentment, or fear when I am love, and love flows into me powerfully. So there you go. There is your affirmation for the month. So just remember, as you go through the month and you're having those self-doubts, the plan will become more clear. The key is, from the Messenger of Water here, is love yourself. You don't have to work through those insecurities and those self-doubts, and love yourself anyway. And try not to project it onto others, and move forward. Once you get to know all of you, your flaws and your talents, you'll really know how to shine, because you've now got that full picture of who you are as a whole person. And you'll move forward through to November feeling like you now have an action plan. You now know your next step. The future is starting to take shape. So there you have it. That is the forecast for October 2018. I just want to remind you that I am now accepting bookings for email and video chat readings. So if you would like a reading from me, private message me or send me an email and we will, or you can book online. You can go to my website and book online. Okay, until next time, guys, stay shiny and keep sparkling. Bye.